that mass incarceration is harming the United States. I'm refuting the secondary claims mass incarceration is less effective than it is portrayed. Mass incarceration harms the people financially, and imprisonment negatively impacts America's image in many ways. I will be arguing that his contradictory evidence and morally based argument do not support his claim. My main claim is mass incarceration is more beneficial than it is harmful to the United States. Firstly, in recent years, crime rates in the United States have reduced due to longer incarceration rates and heavier penalties. In his speech, Michael makes the claim that mass incarceration is less effective than it is portrayed, yet according to the national press release by the FBI, statistics released reveal overall declines in both the number of violent crimes and the number of property crimes reported for the first 6 months of 2014 when compared with the figures of the first 6 months of 2013. He also goes on to quote reporter Tierney Sneed from U.S. News. Since 1991 and up until 2015, violent crime has been cut by more than half and property crime shrunk by 43%, while imprisonment increased by 61%. This statement is contradictory to his original claim and provides evidence that mass incarceration is beneficial. Under this subclaim, he also put forward the idea of replacing mass incarceration with less expensive options, yet failed to address any of those possible examples. Secondly, the cost of mass incarceration is lower than the cost of crime. It would be false to say that we don't spend money on mass incarceration. Yet, although keeping people in jail, it comes with a price. The price of crime and death is much greater and detrimental to the United States. According to The Atlantic, America spends $80 billion a year incarcerating 2.4 million people. This information was reported in the year 2015. Although this is a large sum of money, in comparison to gun-related crimes alone, America spends $229 billion a year. This is based on 2012 data from MotherJones.com. This is a $149 billion difference. Also, the cost of just one murder, according to MotherJones.com, is $441,000, and that's in direct costs. Lastly, imprisonment gives Americans greater peace of mind. In his speech, Michael claims that imprisonment negatively affects America, yet according to criminaljustice.hub.com, more than 3 out of 4 Americans feel safe walking around where they live at night. While this is a measurement of perceived crime and not crime itself, this perception is that the U.S. as a whole is as safe as most modern industrialized countries. The U.S. is relatively safer than other countries. According to a poll on criminaljustice.hub.com, nearly 80% of Americans feel safe walking alone at night. 70% feel safe in Korea, 59% feel safe in Mexico, and a little over 40% feel safe in Greece. He also spoke about how those who are personally affected by imprisonment. He claimed that employers are negatively biased towards imprisonment, viewing potential formerly incarcerated employees as possible hindrance or even a handicap to the business. This claim is a sweeping generalization that implies all employers are negatively biased and questions morals, not fact. On that note, in America, there are opportunities for former inmates to be rehabilitated. Homeboy Bakery and Homegirl Cafe are located in Los Angeles, California. Their mission reads, Homeboy Industries provides hope, training, and support to formerly gang-related and previously incarcerated men and women, allowing them to redirect their lives and becoming contributing members of society. They have 8 different services and programs to offer their employees, such as educational services and mental health services. In conclusion, since the introduction of mass incarceration in America's justice system, America has become safe, crime rates have lowered, and Americans have a greater peace of mind. Additionally, the cost of mass incarceration is minimal in comparison to the cost of crime. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, would we rather be paying to keep our streets safer or paying for a murder that one of those criminals could have committed? These points prove that incarceration rates have benefited rather than harmed the United States. Thank you.
All right, you label the advocate's claims and secondary points pretty clearly. You go through them in an organized fashion so everything's easy to follow. On the first point, you basically turn the argument around with the statistic that the advocate used on their point. You've got recent data that shows that the crime rate's decreasing. and you've got a lot of information later on that suggests that the public perceives it as being a beneficial thing. So in essence, you show that there is a crime benefit that comes from mass incarcerations. The advocate was not specific as to what kind of incarceration that they were criticizing. They never specified that it was drug crime that they thought that we're doing too much on. So I think that you are able to use the more general evidence on this particular point and be pretty effective at it. I thought, like I said, that there's a good reasoning turnaround on the statistical relationship. The advocate seems to reach the exact opposite conclusion of what the data was suggesting at that point, and I thought you explained that pretty clearly. The cost issue, I thought you did a nice job comparing and contrasting some of the costs. We spend $80 billion to incarcerate, which is a lot of money, but our crime consequences are substantially higher than that. And if we could spend another $20 billion and eliminate that entirely, it would be worth the effort. I thought that was a good argument to make. And then you had some breakdown of some of the individual costs, like a murder being $441,000. I thought that was okay. I think one of the other things that you present on this point is that there are advantages to doing this from the point of view of the public. They perceive where they live is relatively safe. And to me, on that argument about the image of the United States around the world, I think you've got a good response on this point here. You're actually presenting it on this point rather than on the third point, and that is that most Americans feel safe where they live, whereas that's not the case in other parts of the world, and in particular in Greece, where only 40% of the population feels that it's safe to be walking on the streets at night. And you say, you know what? If we incarcerate more people and people think that's a bad idea, well, there's a trade-off that we're making here, and there's a value to that particular point. I like the argument, especially that you made right at the very end, that says, we can be paying for one thing or the other, and this is the thing that is worth paying for. Without making a value claim, you do make a kind of contrast on that argument that I thought was pretty effective. All right, thank you all very much for sticking it out. We've got 4